Hi, this is Wade McKittrick, Superintendent at Wabasso Public Schools, and this is the Superintendent Stream. I wanted to take a moment and dedicate a stream specifically to a proposed calendar that we're looking at for the 2020-2021 school year that's different than the one that we approved in the spring. Why would we do this? The Commissioner of Education recently reopened up the window to apply for a flexible learning year for this 1 year. They did this for multiple reasons, but a couple of the primary reasons are: one is the state fair has been canceled, which eliminates a significant conflict with starting school prior to Labor Day. And second is they looked at it from what the data seems to be saying about the COVID virus and the opportunity to be able to have more warm weather school days and less cool weather school days if a district should choose. And third is to provide some flexibility for school districts to have local control and make decisions based upon what's best for their district as opposed to a one size fits all from a state perspective. So why would our district take a look at a flexible learning calendar? The flexible learning calendar that we're talking about would have us coming back to school beginning on Tuesday, August 25th. It maintains that we still would go to school through June 4th. It doesn't uh, decrease the end date right now, but it keeps that end date. It just provides more flexibility for the school district to be able to respond to events throughout the school year without having to change the type of learning that we're doing. As most people know by now, we have to create three different plans for providing education. One is having all kids back in the school building. Two is to have a hybrid where a limited number of students could be in the school building at any given time. And the third one, of course, is the distance learning plan. We're looking at options to try to minimize any potential distance learning that we need to do within the school district in response to COVID. So we wanted to take a look at this flexible learning calendar. And like we said, starting on August 25th, really it gives us 2 extra weeks of what I would call warm weather school uh, in August and then that first week of September prior to Labor Day beginning. We think that makes a lot of sense. Uh, Again, what else does the calendar accomplish? The calendar would accomplish uh, providing for some flexibility in months where the flu season begins to ramp up and also when it hits the hardest, as the experts are predicting that the COVID virus really, if it's going to have a reflaming, you might say, or a initial flaming, as the case in our area, could potentially be in that follow that flu season month type of timeline. So by starting school on August 25th, we get those 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. We get 2 weeks of warm weather, uh, pre-flu season type of school sessions. But then beginning in October, we would see that in October of the 4 complete full weeks of school, each three of the four we would be able to schedule in events that would have kids only in school 4 of the 5 days, providing for long weekends in which they're not being around all the friends and a large number of students in the school building, and also giving us an opportunity within the school building to do deep cleans over those days that the kids aren't in school. November, there's already Thanksgiving break built in, and obviously December there's Christmas break already built in. So smaller chunks of time where kids are here for full weeks. We think that makes sense. January, again, the Christmas break is just wrapping up, but also in January we have the holiday break in January with the end of the semester, and then when we look at February, which is statistically the month in which the traditional flu season is hit the hardest. And we've seen a lot of that the last few years in our district, where we've had an excessive number of kids missing school just from the simple fact that we're spreading it around and around and around and around, not only in households but within classrooms. So if the COVID virus does indeed follow the flu cycle, we're trying to be proactive in February. So what we would do is we were proposing to schedule a 1-week break in the middle of February, February 15th through February 19th, that we would have all kids out of school for that week. That would be a winter break. What that accomplishes is really counting the weekends. We would have this building empty for 9 days. That's 9 days in which children have the chance to get healthy if they've indeed been struggling with the flu or any other sicknesses. And it also gives us a chance to lock down the school building and go through and do a disinfecting of the entire school building during that time when we know that the germs are spreading the most. Again, that seems to make some sense to us in being able to maximize break times in a way that makes sense. Coming back into March, then, March really, we're banking on the fact that whatever the virus, the COVID virus does in the winter months, whether there's a vaccine that's created or a treatment plan that's created, or it simply dies down, whatever the case might be. We're banking our calendar on the fact that we see the decrease of that happening in March, and then finish out the school year April, May without COVID being in the discussion whatsoever. That's what we're hoping, and that's what we think creates a proactive approach. So what does that mean for you as parents and people in the community? How does it affect you? Well, one, obviously, an earlier start means you may need to change some of the plans that you currently have. If you've planned that into the summer vacation or looking at potentially doing that, might need to reconsider if we look at that August 25th start date. It also provides you with dates throughout the school year that you would need to take a look at as a parent to say, okay, these are scheduled days where we're not going to have school. In particular, that date in February, that week in February, where you need to be able to find, what are my kids going to do during that time? We thought by accomplishing a schedule in this manner and putting out a calendar like this plenty in advance, that gives you as parents the opportunity to plan and not have this sprung upon them. One of the things we do know that we've been told, at least from the Department of Education, is that we need to be prepared to move in and out of the different learning cycles, whether it be all kids back, whether it be hybrid, or whether it be distance learning. By creating this calendar, we created flexibility by putting into the calendar 6 unscheduled days. So those 6 unscheduled days, currently then what that means is we have 174 student days planned into the calendar already. What we want to do is we want to be able to have that flexibility, 177 days, 177 days currently planned into the calendar. That builds in 3 what I'm calling COVID days and 3 weather days, so 6 days total. Let's say, just for the sake of a model, that we did end up having some COVID happening in our school, or like we've had in the past, a massive outbreak of the common flu, where we have a lot of kids sick. This calendar then would allow us to take a break at a moment's notice without having to enter into distance learning, because we will already have those days accounted for back in August. That seems to make sense to me. It seems to make sense to our school board, and as we presented this to our staff, seems to make sense to them as well. This calendar simply gives us the most flexibility to be able to keep kids in school, receiving their education inside this building, and not have to move to distance learning. So why am I sharing this in a video right now? I simply want you to have the information. I'm going to be posting throughout this video up in the upper left-hand corner a copy of that calendar. It might be a little small for you to see unless you're watching this on a big screen, but just so you know, this Friday I'm also going to be emailing out the calendar to you to be able to look at and be able to process, form some opinions. What questions do you have? We want you to be able to do that, because then what I've done is I've scheduled on Wednesday, July 15th, I've scheduled a Zoom meeting which anybody can access. And during that Zoom meeting, what I'm going to be doing is simply putting that calendar out there and asking for your feedback. What thoughts, ideas do you have with it? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Do you have concerns? What are those concerns? Do you have things that maybe we haven't thought about that we need to consider? We want your opinion and your feedback on that. And so that'll be done through that public hearing on July 15th at 6 o'clock on the Zoom session. You can access the Zoom meeting by going to our district webpage. On the front page, it'll be listed in the hot topics. Simply, you're going to be able to click on that link and it'll take you to the Zoom session. Once that meeting is done, depending on the feedback that we receive from parents, we will be rediscussing this at our July 27th school board meeting. And if the feedback is positive and it's something that we want to move forward with, the school board will give the approval to apply to the commissioner of the Department of Ed for approval for a flexible learning year calendar. We can't simply do this on our own. We're getting the input right now. We're putting this together. We're asking all of our stakeholders what you think. But even once the school board says, yes, we're going to go ahead and move forward with this if we get permission, we still have to make application to the Commissioner of Ed, and she has to approve it in order for us to be able to implement that calendar. So it's possible we won't know for sure if this calendar is approved until the first week of August. So that is asking you as parents for flexibility to be able to plan for 2 separate start dates of school. I would assume that since the commissioner has opened up this window, that the intent is to give us local control. And if we have sound rationale, which I believe we do, that they will approve our application. But it's a matter of how quickly they have their turnaround time. So that's the information that we want to be able to present to you and for you to be able to process and think through. Again, I encourage you to participate on the Zoom session to provide feedback on July 15th at 6 o'clock. Again, that information or that link can be grabbed on the district website for you to be able to access that meeting. So for now, thanks for tuning in and spending 12 minutes with me on learning about this proposed calendar. I hope you'll consider joining the Zoom session then on July 15th at 6 o'clock p.m. And until then, it's a great day to be a rabbit.